I want you to think about that song. I chose it for a particular reason. Because right now, people are either being reactive. Are you ready?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Get a little closer. Just right. We tried a little thing.
Anyway, put a little love in your heart. We are either reactive or proactive. I've always believed that this world, this planet, was created as simplistic as an atom. In order for an atom to exist, you have to have an equal amount of negative as you have the positive. You can't have one versus the other. The way I see it is that people have made the negative as being bad and the positive as being good. And the truth is, everything is a circle, like the yin yang. Everybody knows the symbol of the yin yang. Do you know that the dot in the dark is gray, not white, and yet in the darkness it looks white? The dark is actually gray in the white, but it looks dark because it's around so much light. If you stop and think about this for a minute, that nothing can exist in this world without both dark and light. So we can look at it this way. How many times has something happened to your life that you think it's the worst thing that could ever happen? And when you've gotten past that initial shock of what happened, how many things made you stronger? How many things made you more aware of things around you? That there has to be a balance. We know our health requires that we keep ourselves in balance. So that ultimately, if you look at it from a perspective of science, your job here is to find balance within yourself. Not to prove that you're good enough to deserve something, but to trust that what you thought is absolutely gospel at 10 is not what you believe now. What you've been told by other people and what you've learned isn't the same thing. So my invitation is in recognizing we're moving in a time where I was told that things will become sacred again, not secret. And anything that has been kept secret is going to come to light. It's hard to look at things we don't want to see. It's hard to look at things. I did a reading for somebody, and the comments I was making, she thought I was anti-Semitic. I didn't say it wasn't, because of the fact that I know what's in people's heart is going to come right out of their mouths. So I had to take the time and really ask myself, am I? Is there something in here that I'm not paying attention to that just came out of my mouth that I didn't hear? And what it really was is not that I was talking about somebody's religion, but the fact that we have people who think their money makes them better than everybody else. We have people who think God chose them as something special and somehow they deserve more because of it. But it's left people who are just trying to get through this life and be a good person and do the right thing. Always, they try to get you in a beggar's position. Do you guys understand what I mean by a beggar's position? That means that you have to prove to somebody else that you're good enough to deserve something. That means that you have to, and they want you. I remember as a child, 6 years old, listening to lectures from ministers. And the lecture composed of, if you're a good person, God's going to reward you. And if you're not, you're going to suffer. And God will make sure you suffer. And at 6 years old, I really saw that as this man manipulating everybody else. If we stop and think about the fact that why did Jesus actually come onto this earth? And as spiritualists, we do believe that Jesus came onto this earth. Not as a savior because you weren't good enough and you had to be rescued. One of the tenets of our religion is personal responsibility. But what does that personal responsibility means? In my world, in my expression of it, is that we're divine children. That we're gifted children. Who have walked into a world that is so dense in their thinking that they need somebody to be less than them. I call it the Jerry Springer effect. And I call it that because of the fact that people actually, and they statistically know this, watch Jerry Springer because they can say, well, at least I'm not that bad. At least there's somebody worse off than me. I've gotten people who got mad at me when I said, nobody's in front of you, nobody's behind you. God does not have a list like Santa Claus. Because we have to come back to the idea that we are divine children. Isn't that what the Bible says? That we are children of God. So if we are children of God, that means that everything that created the world you're in is also inside of you. That you didn't come into this world to try to prove everybody else how good you are, or how special you are, how important you are. You came in here to learn 3 things: self-love, self-worth, self-esteem. You can't earn it. You can't borrow it. And every time you try, you've just given up your power to somebody else. There's also a very interesting thing, because I know everybody's experienced this at one time or another, where you have somebody, you sit down to talk to them, and by the time you're finished talking to them, you're exhausted. They just sucked you dry. But somebody who does that, you have to know it's because they don't know how to gain power for themselves. They're not plugged in to receive their own power. And the only way they know how to get it is to steal it from somebody else. Now, I'm a great visualizer. I love visualizations. And so when I started learning how not to let them suck me dry, I first decided whether they were acting infantile or just stupid. My estimation. So if they were infantile, I had this giant baby bottle. And while they were talking, I'd imagine I stuck that baby bottle right in their mouth. So all the time they're talking, I'm watching them drink. For somebody who's just being whatever, not balanced in my world, I have a spiritual gas pump. And I unhook Just like I go with my car, I go on, hook the gas pump, and stick that in their mouth. Two things happen. You guys should try this. One, they'll start leaving you alone. And second, because they didn't get the one thing that they wanted, is to weaken you. They're not consciously doing this. They're not sitting and go, "Ooh, goody, I'm going to see what I can do to them." Because it's their learned pattern. Because nobody taught them how to plug into their own source. And your source is your divinity. Your direct connection. I have two prayers, and I'll say this 1,001 times. Two prayers I use every day. First, I ask to align my heart to the heart of God, that I could see people the way God sees them. The second is to be fully awake and fully aware to the highest level I am capable of at this particular time. Because I know that over the years, as I've learned more, saw things from a different perspective, you change how you see something, the whole situation itself changes. I've learned over the years that bullies are bullies because they can. Because they can. And you don't argue with them. It's them I see as the infants. Those are the ones they give the baby bottles to. But it is your personal responsibility not to give up your power, not to give up who you really are. You don't have to prove it to anybody. You don't have to convince them of anything. But I like Wayne Dyer's expression, is to be the person you wish to see in the world. Because when you leave this earth, it's not going to matter what Joe Schmo from Kokomo did. It's not going to matter what your mother did. It's not going to matter what your cousin did. Because the party you're going to is your own. And all you have to do is know that all you need to do is like you. Because as long as you're doing the best you know how, there's nothing else to do. I know this might sound strange, but there's been occasions when I have walked into a room and it's almost like walking into jello. I can't figure out how to describe it any other way. But when I hear that squish as I walk into a space, the irony is all of a sudden I can hear everybody's thoughts and everybody's agenda and everybody's agenda who they're with. And it fascinates me. But the thing is, I want those that are going to take my class to realize that if I tell you something that I'm doing and can do, it's not because I'm aggrandizing myself, because it's another avenue I found that we're capable of. Another thing, because we filter things out until we're ready to receive them. And that life really is just about perspective and perception. You change how you see it, you change how you deal with it. I once had a woman upstairs, crazy as a bed bug. She used to put speakers on the floor, another one bites the dust. And then she took a hose and stuck it down the kitchen. She was upstairs, I was downstairs. She stuck it tube and let it rain in my house, in my apartment. She sent me a note with a bar of soap and with instructions how to use it. Now you have to understand, when I was younger, you could eat off my floors. So I was so upset. And I called up a friend and I started to complain about this. How dare she think I'm that dirty? She goes, she's willing to go shopping for you. Make her a list. So I did. I made a list of all my cleaning products and I said, P.S. I prefer Irish Spring, so you can have your soap. But it changed how I dealt with her. It changed how I felt about it. When we can shift our perspective and recognize that people are just acting out where they're coming from, not where you're coming from, they are. I had an ex-husband that used to call me up and tell me what an unfit mother I was all the time. Meantime, he's living rent-free at his mother's house, make cop salary, and he's calling me, and I would start defending myself. And one day I heard this voice that said, April, he's talking about himself. So I stepped back and started listening to all the words that he said. And so in order to keep out of his stuff, I started saying the serenity prayer over and over in my head. So I didn't buy into and start justifying. And one day I heard myself say it out loud. I didn't mean to, I just did. Do you know he hung up and never called me back and screamed at me again? And do you know why? Because I learned that people play these games with each other. And when you won't play, the game's up. When you can name the game, but it's true in spirit too, because you were giving lessons here on this earth. When you can name the lesson stops. It's that easy. But we complicate it because we're human beings in a human world. And trust me, when I talk to my guides, sometimes I have to say to them, listen, you might think I'm just a dumb earth being right now, but I'm not getting this one. Could you please give it to me a different way? And they will. Because I also know that every one of us are loved in the deepest level you could possibly have. Loved completely, unconditionally. Because they know that it's not easy to walk through here. They know it's hard to keep your balance. But that's what we're here, is to learn ourselves outside of everybody else. I know that most of you, most people are good people. They want to be good. But you see it in families, where you got the ones that keep all the rules and the ones that break them. But neither one of them succeed in anything except for perpetuating the idea that you have to follow these rules. Well, you can't tell me what to do. It's the game they're playing. I say there are some people, they're just having a happy. When you get families that like to fight with each other, and you got the peacemaker that's always trying to get them to stop, peacemaker has to learn they're having a happy. So I imagine they're just monkeys in a cage throwing, the only thing they have is their dung at each other. I have to make sure I have a shield so if they throw it my way, it doesn't hit me. That's called self-protection. But guys, this is just a journey. You have eternity to figure it all out. Stop complicating it. When you get into the spirit world, there is no God that's going to judge you. You are going to stand with your guides and your angel, because everybody has one. And you will go over what I call your Kodak moments. Kodak moments are those moments in life that somehow shifted your reality. That what you learn from. Now, I will tell you, denial is not a river in Egypt here or there, which means if you do not want to accept that you did certain things, it's okay. They give you time, and they'll set up another lifetime for you to experiment with. But I was also told that there are angels that have come and taken physical form, and that they lost their way for millennium because of the denseness of this world. Totally got caught up in the stuff and the nonsense that goes on here. You know, historically, we can look at periods of time, and do you know that the most growth and the most strength came when people had very different ideas but respected each other's? Historically, the times that we have grown, the quickest, the fastest. So we've got to learn that it's not about judging ourselves as good or bad, right or wrong. It's about learning and growing, because that's our nature. That's our true nature. And if somebody isn't fair, well, stick your thumb in your mouth and suck on it for a while and then get over it. Because you don't have control. You don't have control of what they do or don't do. You do have control whether you take it on and make it personal. And that is a hard one to conquer. So I like bless your soul. Because it's okay if they need to be right. But it's also another interesting game that I've learned, is that when people need to be right, because they don't really trust what they're saying, and they want you to confirm their rightness. It's that simple. It's all they're doing. It's because a well-oiled wheel doesn't squeak. As spiritualists, we don't have to go out and save the world. As spiritualists, we're taught to stand in our truth, to be the best us that we know how to. And to remember that coming together like this, water seeks its lowest level, energy seeks its highest, it's science. So when you sit and vibrate with people that you appreciate and can appreciate each other, it just raises everybody's energy. But what are you contributing onto this planet? As sensitives, we're all picking up on the immense sadness, the immense anger, the immense fear. But before 9/11 hit, I was getting pictures, images, one after another, and it got to the point where it was scaring me. And one of my angels stood right in front of me, and she said, knock it off. They don't sit there and go, you poor thing, I'm so sorry for you. They go, knock it off. She said I wasn't the only one getting given this information. And what she said is they needed our prayers, because she said, even if they can't stop it, they can lessen it. That our thoughts are things, and even the angelic realm themselves, if you have a bad situation and you say a prayer into it, and better still, they said light a candle and say your prayer, because as long as the candle burns, that prayer continues. That's why the Catholic Church has been doing for centuries. Thoughts are things. When in doubt, breathe it out. So when you're feeling uneasy, unbalanced, just sit for a moment, center yourself, and see where your truth really lies. Is it lying in somebody else's hands? Or are you taking personal responsibility to love yourself through the situation? I always like the words, you deserve to be loved, and right now I'm trying. And right now you are being trying. All right. Bless your own path. Honor yourself. Be the grace that your soul is. And stop letting your earth mind control your world. Because that's not real. It's not real. As the God in May honors the God in every one of you, I want to thank you.